Independence at age 18 is actually a highly sophisticated psychological trap. It was designed to fracture your foundational strength and turn you into drifting pieces of debris in a harsh ocean of survival. Looking back at human history, the powerful have always understood one unshakable principle for maintaining their status, and that is the absolute cohesion of bloodlines. Meanwhile, the lower classes proudly embrace a hollow belief that pushing their children out of the house at 18 to fend for themselves is a measure of maturity and glory. This is not an accidental difference in upbringing. This is a systemic stratification, designed to draw a clear line between those who create the rules of the game and the docile prey in the global chess match of power. The saying that raising a child until they are 18 marks the end of responsibility actually stems from a survival instinct triggered when resources are depleted. When a family has no accumulated assets, no tools of production, and lacks social connections, raising an adult becomes a purely economic burden. The concept of ending responsibility is merely helplessness disguised under the beautiful veneer of independence. Exhausted parents are forced to push their children out of the nest because they no longer have the resources to continue investing. The 18-year-old enters the world empty-handed, fueled by the brilliant illusion of freedom. They are tossed into a ruthless labor market without any leverage or foothold. A solitary individual, without a safety net, is forced to accept the worst working conditions just in exchange for a meal and a place to sleep. They become perfect cogs in the industrial machine, constantly afraid of being discarded and extremely easy to replace. The economic calculus of this isolation has been meticulously calculated. An extended family living together, sharing transportation, and accumulating wealth collectively consumes very few goods. A system fueled by greed does not want that. They need to divide your family. When you move out to pursue the ideal of independence, the system sells an additional lease, another car, a set of furniture, and a new internet subscription. This intentional disintegration is the engine that drains the vitality and assets of the masses to enrich the forces that control the supply chain. Look at how ancient empires operated. Powerful pharaohs never pushed their children into the desert to find their own glory. Great medieval merchants did not demand that their heirs start by scrubbing the decks of ships. Their wealth was the control over trade routes and political decisions. For great clans, dividing members meant shattering their own foundations. If wealth and power are fragmented, they immediately weaken and become easy prey for enemies. Therefore, their children are placed in strategic positions to maintain the dominance of the dynasty. History shows that prioritizing bloodlines is the ultimate defense mechanism. Among the elite, an heir who is not particularly brilliant still has great utility. Giant clans are willing to arrange a comfortable position for a less capable child rather than casting them aside. The reason is cold and practical. A loyal relative is 10,000 times safer than a brilliant but ambitious outsider. That child sits in the seat of power not to be a great leader, but to occupy space and prevent secrets from falling into the hands of outsiders. They are the links protecting a massive hoard of wealth. The upper class uses the principle of meritocracy to hire exceptional people from the lower classes to work for them. But they use bloodline loyalty to decide who the true owners are. This difference creates two fateful paths. For those at the bottom, every new generation is a reset to zero. You must spend your entire youth just to trade for a place to stay and basic needs. When your strength is exhausted, that loop repeats with your children. Assets have no chance to accumulate and are easily wiped out by illness or inflation. You have no shield against economic waves and must use your own body to endure the social grind. In contrast, the ruling class plays a relay game through time. The previous generation lays the foundation, the next reinforces the walls, and the following one monopolizes the resources. They use complex legal and financial tools to ensure their mountain of gold does not erode. A child born into these clans starts at the peak of a tower built over many generations. They do not need to prove their independence by rejecting their family. Their independence is the ability to mobilize massive resources to crush any competitor. The strategy of kinsmen helping one another is not born of sentimental love, but of territorial expansion. When a clan embeds its people into every field, from commerce and law to media, they create a web that swallows every opportunity. A closed ecosystem helps them create an impregnable fortress. When a new industry emerges, the poor will apply for jobs, while the clans will deploy an entire army of capital, connections, and distribution channels to monopolize the market. When an economic recession hits, isolated individuals will go bankrupt, but the elite network will activate its mutual support mechanism. They use profits from one sector to save another. Wealth does not disappear, it merely moves from one pocket to another within the same lineage. Their act of pulling up a relative is not charity, it is an expansion of the imperial borders, ensuring that resources always flow toward the center of their network. While the real world operates through collective power, the media relentlessly feeds you the beauty of individualism. Self-made stories are painted to direct the behavior of the masses. You are taught to draw clear boundaries, discard relatives who are considered burdens, and live proudly and independently. A society consisting of billions of fragmented, rootless individuals is fertile ground for the puppet masters. The power game only recognizes the organized and the disorganized. When a mother proudly pushes her 18-year-old child out to face the storm, she has inadvertently stripped away the only chance for the child to accumulate an advantage. That child will have to sell their life force and time just to scramble for the crumbs falling from the tables of the powerful. Behind the curtain, the puppet masters are handing their children maps, keys, and infinite networks of connections to continue their rule. The laws of wealth distribution always prioritize the largest accumulations. By sowing the idea that responsibility ends at 18, the system has successfully neutralized the power of the majority. Every person born at the bottom becomes a lonely island, struggling against the tempest. Meanwhile, the ruling clans build themselves into solid continents, shielding one another to maintain dominance across centuries. Anyone who believes in a fair starting line at age 18 is merely deceiving themselves with a sedative prescribed by the house. When you take pride in severing the links to your roots to prove your independence, are you truly free? Or are you simply stripping off your armor before entering an arena of wolf packs that have been allied for hundreds of years?